One of the things that you guys asked about earlier that we can do now is we can watch Steven Santoli's ban list prediction, because you guys asked if I saw it and I haven't yet. Ban list discussion. Okay. How long is it? 20 minutes. We might have that much time. We'll see. All right, just some relaxed ban list prediction from my Canadian goat. Let's see.
Hey guys, Santoli here with another ban list discussion video. So we should be getting a list soonish, whether it's the following week, which I would imagine means it's in place for YCS Ohio or Columbus, or if we get one at Columbus or slightly after that for Nats format, we will be getting one at least somewhat soon, hopefully dealing with all the Justice Hunter decks that have been running around. And so here's my take on what I think needs to get hit for the upcoming formats.
He's right.
And I think that the game
I hope we get a ban list soon.
Okay,
I don't know anymore.
I think the decks are somewhat interesting. It's not amazing. You still do have a large amount of non-games. There's a lot of decks right now that I don't even know if the playstyle is awful, but it just feels like it's gone old. And I think that the new coming decks, especially in the next set for Blitz or the Nats set, are a little bit lower power level. So we do need a list to actually make them top tier. Which means that some of the old decks need to move out of the way. So
I think this is true for basically everything that isn't Cool Tune, right? Like all the other new decks compared to what we have right now is not even that amazing. Like especially Chaos Origin. I think this is not true for Blazing Dominion. I think Blazing Dominion will have meta impact even if there is no ban list, but Chaos Origin, there's a lot of stuff in there that I like. Blitzclick, Clown Crew, support second wave, the Blackluster Soldier, Dark Magician of Chaos archetype stuff. Like I just don't think that holds up to like the full power decks we have right now.
Go through deck by deck on what I think needs to get hit. First off, talking about VS and
Melfi, yeah,
the Canine engine. I said this last video, there's going to be some repetition from last video for things that did not get hit, but there's also new ideas. I think the VS cards are fine. I don't think we need to bring Sue up. I think this card is completely insane. I think the main thing with this card is that it, as a turn 0 play, is just disgusting. Like the big issue is that you just don't lose any advantage. You know, you summon Sue, you summon from deck, you get a card to hand, and then you reshuffle some hands, you get 2 pops. You still have 5 cards in your hand, or yeah, you still have 5 cards in your hand after resolving this. And so I don't want to just kill the K9 cards and have this card come up. I see people talk about how the issue with VS is just the K9 cards. There's nothing wrong with VS. It's like, no. It completely dominated Euros last year with no K9 cards, just as VS. And so I don't want this card to come up any higher. I think it's fine at 1. It's not bad once you search it. Like once it's in engine and you have to...
I could agree with that. I still wholeheartedly think the K9 cards are the problem, but I also wouldn't immediately bring back Holly Suited while banning. Like I would just ban Ripper, call it a day.
Switch off Raisin or whatever, and then you start looping with Rock. That's fine because now it's a card that you can, as the opponent, know where it is and attack it and try to keep it off the board out of their hands. And so it's fine. It's just really the turn 0 plays with this card that I am not a fan of. Which means I think it just needs to stay at 1. It's too good, especially when paired with the Chummy when you're going second. So it's fine.
Does VS still do too much? Bro, Banker Soul won 2 out of the 3 300th YCSs and is still one of the most oppressive decks when it goes first. Due to the K9 cards basically punishing you for using any hand traps.
Get to it, but it's not one of these cards that I think the power level is too low. We can bring it up. It's good where it is. It is rightfully on the list. And so hitting the K9 cards, which is the other issue with the deck, is naturally just get rid of Ripper. I said this last time. I'll say it again. There's no real reason for this card to exist in the current way it is. It's just hand trap installation. I go summon Joko, summon Guy, make Ripper, and now I'm just immune to 1 hand traps. And it just makes it very, very difficult to hand trap the decks. And overall, it's just not enjoyable for that. And I think it's unfortunate because this card isn't super far off from being reasonable. Like, just imagine it said your opponent has to have a card on their field for you to negate, and then all of a sudden it'd be completely fine because it's not this call by the grave going first. But that's not how it is. It was designed in a way where it's just super, super good going first, which means that, like I said last time, we just get rid of it. I think these cards are super toxic, and it should not be here. And yes, it's really killing the K9 archetype, but I don't see any other way.
Yeah, kill it.
If Konami's
Kill
like,
it.
I
No
don't
one
really
cares.
want to ban this card, they want to keep it around. The other thing they can hit is Case, because this makes the hybrids a lot worse. It means you can't bridge because you're losing an extra monster off of your combos, because Lantern now can only search the quick play or the regular, or the quick play, whenever it is. So that is an argument to get rid of it if Konami decides not to get rid of Ripper, but I think it should just...
It's been long enough. They could let go of Ripper. Dude, it was long enough 1 day after it was printed. We've already had enough 1 day after it was printed.
Be Ripper being the one that goes. And I don't really see any other hits. On hits needed, use an argument to move Jokul back up, but I think this card's still very good going first.
Dude, they can have Jokul back. I'll give it to you. Take your Jokuls. Take your 3 copies of Jokul. Take your copies of Case. I don't care. This card goes, and K9 is completely fine.
First, maybe for subsequent lists we can move this up, but for the first one, I'm fine just killing Ripper and seeing where the rest of the decks lie.
I think Ripper would be
Moving on to the
so
Yummy
good, man.
Archetype. So the big one people talk about is hitting Cupsy. And the reason they talk about this is because it's used for all the toxic bridges. And the problem with that logic is that that wasn't completely true. So let's first talk about the fact that not all Yummy hybrids are toxic. Like if my opponent is activating Engage, going drones, and just making Cupsy away like that, there's nothing toxic about that. Like how Yummy was played initially, there's nothing wrong with that. If my opponent is going through Soulful Core cards to get the Cupsy away, again, there's not anything inherently problematic about that. These are supplementary engines that aren't really raising the ceiling a super large amount. It's just extra ways of consistency. I don't have an issue with
I don't know if that's true, honestly. I think the Engage example, sure. In the Engage example, you're just using Engage as a starter in pure Yummy. That's not a hybrid. That's not... I don't think people called that deck Sky Striker Yummy. That wasn't really a thing, right? Like, that's not... I would not classify that as a hybrid. That was just another starter in pure Yummy. That's fine. The Melodious example, I don't agree with. I think that very much is a hybrid, and that very much, like, if that deck full combos, that deck does too much. Like, for sure.
them going through Jester Confit or something. These cards are fine. When you look at a lot of the more toxic hybrids, such as the Mitsu one, or the
Sulfur Cord, not Melodious? Oh, did I say Melodious? Oh, yeah, I mean Sulfur Cord.
Well, none of them was super toxic, but it really did have an insane board. None of these hybrids really relied on Cupsy for the bridge. Like, the Yummy cards relied on Cupsy naturally, because once you get the one Yummy card, you want to get to more of them. But the bridges to Yummy at all were done through different ways. Mitsu was done through Zombie Vampire, and the Radiant Typhoon Tri-Brigade one was done through Shurik. And so this is an example of a card that's kind of taking a bit of blame unfairly, in the sense that it's not responsible for all the bridges. Some of them, yes, but not all of them. And the problem is, if you hit Cupsy weight, the deck is just...
I think the people that want Cupsy banned are not just for the bridges. Those are the ones that actually just want Yummy to be gone, right? Even, like, because you could argue that, yeah, if you get rid of Hornet Drones, which is the card that's also responsible for a lot of the bridges, you still leave a window for other Yummy variations to pop up. And I think the people that want Cupsy way banned are just the people that don't want to deal with Yummy at all anymore. Which is understandable after how long it's been, I think.
Completely dead. Like, what is one Cookie doing or one Marshmallow doing? And I don't know if this deck needs to completely die. Power level seems okay-ish. Overall, I don't hate this ban.
Personally, without Herald of the Arclight in the mix, I would be completely fine if they found a way to keep Cupsy Yummy Way legal, but make sure that that deck is not slopped into everything anymore. Like, if they think there's a way for that, then I'm okay with leaving Yummy itself alive. Like, I'm okay with that. I stand by this. I think pure Yummy boards have always been fine. But it's just about, like, Yummy for some reason just is super splashable, and there's always some variant that pops up that becomes too good, because the Yummy cards themselves are never the problem, but they are the problem when you just have them for free on top of whatever else your deck is doing, right? Like, when you look at like a Mitsurugi board and you're like, okay, that's pretty good, but maybe breakable, and then there's all the Yummy cards for free on top of it, problematic. Same thing for Yummy Sulfur Cord, same thing for Yummy Fiendsmith, and so on and so forth.
I'm just gonna suggest a different one because some people like playing Yummy, and it's not a deck I particularly hate, and that is hitting Lollipop instead. Along,
you can't do that. Something in Yummy needs to be banned. We can't save the pure when the hybrids are there. You could, in theoretically, you can burn down all the bridges, right? Like get rid of Zombie Vampire, get rid of Hornet Drones. Like it's possible. It would just be and Reprodocus and shit like that, right? Like I think that is something that needs to happen at some point anyways. I think they need to be harsher on these bridges because genuinely, I think sometimes they design archetypes to go with each other. Like, for example, I think Vanquish Soul plus K9, I think that was intended. But I think the other half of the time, they design certain decks to be at a certain power level, and then it all falls apart because the community finds a way to bridge decks together that is not intended by the designers. And I'm convinced that this happened with Yummy a lot. Like, I don't think they thought of all the possibilities to combine Yummy beforehand. I think they thought pure Yummy was a fine deck, so they made it, and in theory it was a fine deck power level wise, but then people found a bunch of ways to abuse it. And the reason for this is first of all, I mean, a lack of locks on Yummy, but also all of the possible bridges that exist, right? And I think you need to be more aggressive with these bridges because those cards are all cards that could be problematic in the future again if something like this happens again. Right? Mitsuraisiel felt intentional. Mitsuyami felt like an oversight. Yeah, I mean, it's all speculation. We don't know how much they know in advance of what kind of versions are good, but I can't imagine that they expected Mitsurugi Yami to happen.
With drones. And so what this does is it means it prevents all of the just two... I'm going to put two bodies.
I'm on board with banning drones, 100%.
Camellia and drones, and then I'm going to make Cupsuate. That's no longer possible. And hitting Lollipop away is a way of hitting the Yummy engine, but you can still just do Yummy stuff. Like, the big reward now is less, so the reason to play the hybrids is definitely lower. But if you're still playing a Yummy deck,
I would take this, honestly. I think I could see this.
Things you can still search.
I do think Lollipop Yummy, maybe Lollipop Yummy way and Hornet Drones is an elegant way to do it because you stop some of the bridging, and if Lollipop gets banned, this card is less important than Cupsy Yummy way for pure Yummy for sure. So maybe there still is a window to play pure Yummy with this. I'm not sure though.
So this is just a different.
Snatchy should go to 3 then. I would be careful with that, but I wouldn't absolutely hate it. I think it's an interesting approach to maybe give pure Yummy multiple Snatchies back because realistically the hybrid versions were always the ones where one Snatchy was more likely to be enough than pure Yummy, but yeah.
Suggestion. I'm not particularly against hitting Cupsy, but again, it's just kind of what Konami wants to do. Whether they want to completely kill the deck, then you just hit Cupsy and all Yummy versions are unplayable. Or if you just want to kill a lot of the hybrids by lowering the appeal of Yummy cards in these,
I think we should also be talking about cards like Zombie Vampire and Reprodocus though.
Play hybrid, then you can go along with this hit. So I think both of these are somewhat reasonable.
Could you place your cutout above the other? What do you mean, like here?
Fine with either of them.
Hold up.
Next up we have Draco Tail, and this is a deck that I think I'm really upset with the course that this deck has gone on because it used to be this very
it's frustrating. Draco Tail is frustrating.
When it first came out, I remember my first list had Fenrir's in the main because I was just trying to figure out whatever worked. But as the deck came along, it got hit on the Draco the cards with the healthy part, and now it's just kind of fusion pile. And I don't think that it's still super toxic. Like, I don't think playing Fallen White in the deck means it's just some disgusting combo swap. It still kind of has that appeal of mid-range style. It is a bit more over the top now, but it doesn't feel super toxic. But I think it's still just less healthy than it was initially.
It is not. It's not super toxic, but it still is. It still kind of is trading consistency for higher ceiling, and you're forced to do this because you just can't play pure Draco Tail anymore because of one Ketu, one Mululu. Which is, I mean, this is something, it's not a surprise because we've talked about this like months ago already, even before the Albaz cards came out, that was it was just before when they printed Spenta and White Albaz and they hit Draco Tail, like that was just unfortunate. It's basically watching the slopification of an archetype in real time, right? Like pure Draco Tail, unironically to this day, would probably not even need to be really hit on the ban list if people played pure Draco Tail. Like that deck was always fine. But because the Albaz cards were about to come out, they had to hit Draco Tail because otherwise the deck would have been absurd. And now it's just this kind of like hybrid version.
It was just hit flame, but I don't think that's enough now, considering there's other engines. I think you just have to hit the Draco cards. And while this engine here is healthy overall, it's not particularly toxic. It is just a massive gatekeeper. Like, trying to play some rogue deck into a deck that's just going to activate Rahu or Ketu, you just explode immediately. So, not particularly a fan of that. It has time in the sun.
Yeah.
Suggestions for hits are limit Femina and then Rahu to 2. I think you can put Rahu to 1, but I think if you hit Rahu to 1, the deck is just completely dead unplayable. I think it's already kind of in that position if you do these hits. But
Draco Tail, I think Draco Tail is going to die. I think it's sad. I don't agree with doing it, but I think they will do it. I think Draco Tail is going to die.
It's not the most broken turn 0 play. It's not Sue. I think Sue is a lot more.
I think Draco Tail is going to die for the sins of White Albaz and Spenta.
And again, it's kind of unfortunate this is the direction the Draco Tail has gone. But we've kind of already hit the consistency of it. I don't think we can really hit the power level considering how much other stuff it's already gotten. The other card that I think is reasonable to hit is Brand Infusion. This is another one of those things where I'm not particularly sold on it, but I think this card just is too much. It's just too much in the Draco Tail deck. It doesn't even actually lessen the branded deck. It's not that big a deal. But there is an argument to hit that. I'm fine if you're doing these hits. I do think that they are enough for Draco Tail to really put them down, because you really just need to draw Draco Tail cards in the Draco Tail deck. And when you're
Branded Fusion, if Branded Fusion goes to 1, Branded doesn't even care.
Fall out of favor massively. And while I have spent a large amount of time playing it, it's definitely time to go. Other things to talk about, we can talk about, those are all 3 Justice Hunt decks. Other problematic decks or decks that are really strong out there. We talk about Mitsu. So the one thing I will say is this deck is kind of hard to hit because we just got the Structure deck, which I think is probably one of the best products ever, where you can get Striker and Mitsu and X Sabers, because you, I guess, are building Edison deck at the same time. It's just not playable in current. But you look at these and it's, like I said last time, it's not that this deck is super toxic. And
you will ban the trap again. Hey, Mitsu, banning the Mitsu trap is a phenomenal thing. I don't know if they will do it. I think it's more likely we get prayers to 1. But banning the trap is good.
But when I look at this deck, it's not like I need to completely kill it. And if you hit something like prayers down to 1 or prayers to 2 even, I think you're just ruining consistency. I don't like these types of hits because it's just, am I going to open playable and make my opponent explode? Or am I going to brick or pass to a hand trap and it's going to be miserable for me? I want to hit.
In general, I agree with this, but I think Mitsurugi Prayers to 1 is not just a consistency hit. Mitsurugi Prayers to 1 is a genuine that weakens the deck's end board, because you use 1 on turn 1 and you always set 1 for the next turn. So Prayers to 1 is an interesting hit in that sense because it stops the grind game for the deck. So my question is just, Prayers to 1 might murder Mitsurugi, which some of you guys are going to say good because you want Mitsurugi to die. Possible that some people feel that way. I don't know if they feel that way. I don't know if Konami wants to kill the deck when they just released the legendary modern decks. But banning the trap, I think, is an elegant way of reducing the ceiling. And also if they hit Hornet drones, that also stops Striker Mitsurugi variations. Maybe if they also go the extra mile and get rid of Zombie Vampire, then they stop some other Mitsurugi combinations, right? And at that point, people are actually just gonna have to play pure Mitsu without the trap card, which I think that's fine. They should also do something about Azamina Mitsurugi. That version is also a problem. Like there's still a couple of hybrids out there that they should handle. If they do that, then I'm okay with leaving Mitsurugi alive. But they have to make sure that those hybrids, you have to do something about Azamina.
Just get rid of Purification. It's super off theme with the deck. It doesn't need an Omni. It's also just insane follow-up. And again, you can just easily replace Purification with Monogatama in most of the pure Mitsu lists. Yeah. It is a hit by all means, but
it's a great hit.
It's not particularly, you feel like you just lose every game now. It's not this feeling where the deck is now awful to play. It's just you're lowering the power level. I think it's a healthy hit because if you play Mitsu, you can still play. It's good for all people who want the structure decks. But at the same time, it's just removing a toxic card, and the deck just doesn't need Omni Negates in it. It's perfectly fine doing what just following the normal game plan of summon Murakumo, nuke the board, and then play for follow-up with Futsu. I think that this is just super off theme, and it giving more follow-up as well is just super toxic. Too good of a card. I'm down to get rid of it. And the other thing for the bridge is a card that's not really been seeing much play, but I think it's just one of those cards where at some point we can clean it up. Like Reproductive Source.
I'm down with banning Reprodokus, but realistically, I think Caesar is the one to look at in this case. They can still ban Reprodokus, I'm fine with it.
Because what you do is you make one of your Mitsu cards a spellcaster, you then make the Dark Magician.
But Caesar should also
which
go.
Then searches souls, Magician Souls, and Magician Souls then goes and dumps Black Witch, and you can then go and we'll draw some cards if you want to draw some cards off souls, and then you can make Celine to revive the Black Witch. So it does get you an Omni, and this is number one card on my hate list that needs to go. But like I said last time when I was complaining about Zombie Vampire being the bridge, this is one of those cards where when it pops up, it's usually for no good. So I'm down to get rid of it, but lower on my list of things to get rid of.
I agree.
Moving on to some other.
Bro, so far, absolute fire. I gotta say, so far, yeah, no, this is good stuff.
Maliss. Let's just say I've said last time that I don't want these weak hits, because what's gonna happen is they're gonna do a hit. Everyone's gonna go, "Oh, this deck is dead," and then it's just not dead. And that's exactly what happened. The deck got hit, and it was still somehow the top 5 deck. Top 3 deck at some events, and I'm just sick of it. The playstyle is just super toxic. It's super bad going second unless you just hand trap your opponent to death. It's super ignorant going first, but it's also just bricky. The playstyle is just so unenjoyable. And again, I don't want to play these games of any more of, oh, we're gonna hit underground to 1, or we're gonna do something else. We're gonna ban it. No, like just get rid of it. Kill the deck. Just ban Dormouse. I'm
my base god.
Just put everything on this list. Like there should not be a mouse card that's playable in the game afterwards. But really, like, just get rid of Dormouse, kill the 1 card combos. Yes, it kills the deck, but I just think that deck has gone away so many times with light hits when there's no reason to. Like, when you look at some other decks like Drake Tail or VS, I don't even think that they're ruining the format. It's just like these are kids in school and they, start fights sometimes.
Do you know what the funniest part is? The funniest part, you're not gonna see what's coming now. I don't even think this is necessary. I said this earlier. I think the reason why Maliss is toxic is all of its non-engine. The reason why Maliss is toxic now is Impulse, Ash, Droll, Shifter, Defissure, Mistaken Arrest. Like the fact that like so many Yu-Gi-Oh games these days are turned into non-games because of non-engine, like hand trapping your opponent to death or floodgating your opponent. That is one of the main issues with Maliss. The Maliss endboards themselves aren't even that good. And Dominus Spark is about to be another card that Maliss can play, right? But I mean, I'm down. I'm not against it. I'll take it. I don't care if they do this. I still don't like the deck, but I genuinely don't think the Maliss engine itself without Whitebinder is that problematic anymore. And I think it's funny because he said it exactly the way it is. This deck doesn't win going second unless it hand traps your opponent to death, right? But the thing is, like, Maliss in this instance is just the shell for hand trapping your opponent to death. And that is the thing that's not fun with this deck right now. Right, the play pattern of hand trap your opponent to death, summon 1 card starter, and go for game, that is not fun. And the thing is, like, if we get rid of Maliss, there is going to be other decks who are gonna fall into a similar play pattern if we don't do anything about the cards that hand trap your opponent to death. So the more powerful hand traps, like also the Dominus cards which Maliss can play, or cards like Droll, cards like Shifter, if we don't get rid of those cards, you can kill Maliss, but there is going to be other decks with similar playstyles in the future. Like, that will not really solve the underlying problem.
And you give them...
Because yeah, like 2 years ago, Tenpai did that, right? 2 years ago, it was hand trap your opponent 4 times, summon Pydra. Last year, it was hand trap your opponent 4 times, summon Dormouse. Like, and next year, or this year, it's going to be, I don't know, hand trap your opponent 4 times, summon Q. Right? Snake Eye did that too. Like, it's not really exclusive to Maliss. Like, Maliss was just one of the more outrageous ones when it had Whitebinder. That's when the deck was doing too much. Right now, the concept of the deck is nothing too crazy compared to other decks, and they need to do something about it. But banning Dormouse right now, as funny as it would be, I would take it. Look, I would sit here and I would laugh about it. I wouldn't care. But it's not going to solve the underlying problem of non-engine. Basically, there's decks in the game right now that are just designed to stop your opponent from playing the game, mainly because of non-engine.
miss recess sometimes. It's like, okay. And then you have Dormouse, who's been setting fires in the school for the last 5 years. It's like, oh yeah, he can miss recess next Monday. It's like, no, just expel all of them. Please just get rid of them. This deck should not be playable after a ban list. If it is, then I think it's just a failed approach to it. And like I said, when I'm talking about these other hits, is I usually try to have some sense of, okay, these decks should still be somewhat playable after the fact. It's just, lower the power level, but Malice, it's just time to go. I still give it a Dormouse, but they're just all staying there. I can't bring myself to move them off the list. Other cards to talk about, we have Rain Typhoon cards. So the one card that I think...
Apparently Josh is only Malice second biggest. Dude, I think I've been demoted. I think I may have been demoted from Malice biggest hater to Malice second biggest hater. Because I don't know if I can still call myself Malice biggest hater after watching this. I don't think I am. I don't think I can claim that title anymore.
Is talked about getting hit is Visions.
Oh god.
This is a card that I think power level wise is completely fine.
Yeah, don't do anything about Vision.
A Destiny draw with no upside. Like what you're discarding is not getting an effect. Like, okay, sometimes you can discard a Varoon or the Phonics and revive it with MST, but then you have to use MST on something. Like that's not a concern. Like, this card is one of the fairest cards printed. Both the Sky Striker deck and the Rain Typhoon deck, both those decks are also just super fair.
Yeah.
I think that if you do want to hit the RT deck, then the correct hit is Visions, because it just removes some of the top end of the deck, the ability to dig into non-engine. But RT is a new deck. It was around the 4th best performing deck, but it's only at a regional level 2. It's had bad performance at YCSs. And overall, I think it's just new enough. It's healthy enough. The playstyle is super fun. I don't think anyone is upset when they sit down and their opponent starts summoning Rain Typhoon monsters if there's no fissure behind it. And so just the newness of the deck as well as the health of the deck, I'm just perfectly fine leaving Visions unhit.
Yeah.
As well as all the other RT cards. If at the next format it's still just a performing deck at a high level, and at some point you say, okay, we should just take it down a bit, by all means, I'm fine hitting Visions, but this is definitely not a card that I look at. And power level wise, it's
put MST to 1.
Decks that play
you guys genuinely, you guys are crazy. Like, if you're playing the current format and if you have an issue with Radiant Typhoon or Sky Striker, like I there's no way to phrase it other than that's a freaking skill issue. There's no way you think those decks are too powerful. There's no way you think those decks are too powerful. It's actually impossible. There's no way you look at decks like Vanquish Soul K9 and all the yummy decks or whatever, and you think like, oh yeah, Sky Striker is doing unfair shit. Like, yeah, okay, maybe you don't like the deck, all right? Like, I also dislike playing against certain decks in the format, but they're still not good because I don't like them.
Also, power level wise, don't really warrant the hit, at least yet. Another card talked about is
MST to 1, dude.
And I just think that this card is fine. Like, this card's strength is in the grind game.
There's no way we're putting pop 1 on a ban list, man.
You're getting value over multiple turns, and that's the strength of it. I think those are usually a sign that if these are really good cards, it's a good format. Yeah. And while this card is very strong, again, I don't think it needs to get hit right now. I think the decks as well are using, like, if you hit Draco Tail, this goes down priority, and I think this card in branded is just fine. Like, we're not doing anything degenerate with it, so don't need to hit it.
If this card's get hit, you will witness the biggest hash crash at all time. Fallen into Virtues should never be on the ban list. Like, that card is the embodiment of healthy back and forth Yu-Gi-Oh. Like, pop 1 while creating follow-up, while demanding some extra deck space, is probably the healthiest card that's seen play all year. Like, the card is good. This is why it sees play. But if this card, this card should not go on the ban list. Like, it's completely insane if you think this card should go on the ban list, to me.
Mean that they need to be hit. You're gonna have powerful staples in any form you're in, and the question is, does it lead to interesting gameplay? And this card, I think, does, and so I'm fine leaving it where it is. Other cards that need to get talked about is Bago. This card is just a floodgate, and it's getting more toxic because it's just you're backing it up with more and more of a board that you can protect it with. Like, before it was kind of Bago, but you didn't have the ability to make many good links. Now it's Bago, IP into SP, and you have some other stuff depending on the deck. It's not, again, the #1 card need to get hit, but it's banned in Master Duel, it's banned in the OCG, and it's just...
I mean, this is now we get into the territory of cold takes that you just repeat every ban list discussion. because they still haven't banned the card, but technically we've talked about this a billion times before, so yeah,
These
of
cards
course.
It's essentially a flood, and it's perfectly fine to,
I can't believe we got through Ryziel format and they never banned Baguska. It's actually insane.
Liger is another deck that needs to be talked about. Lunar Light, I'm fine with this deck playing one of it, but double Liger is usually just
I agree with
again,
this.
I
think this is
fine
good.
taking this down to one.
I think like this is a thing where like Lunar Light arguably is obviously not the best deck in the format right now, but it is usually hovering around like top 5 decks for basically an entire year now almost. I don't know exactly when it came out. Maybe a year is too long, but the problem is like this deck just constantly being in the format just warps deck building for everyone. If you don't want to have a terrible time against it, if you like, because you do consistently, and I mean consistently, play against like one Lunalight per tournament. It's been popular enough to the point where almost every single tournament I went to this past year, I've played against one Lunalight every single time. Pretty much. With some exceptions, not always, but sometimes it was 2 Lunalights per tournament, sometimes it was 1, sometimes it was 0, but usually the average, I'm pretty sure, is like 1 Lunalight per tournament. And this means you always have to build your decks with this deck in mind, and it demands very specific answers. And so for like 1 round out of 10 rounds that you play, you have to play like a very specific out for Liger Dancer, which is making your deck worse in all other matchups. But if you don't do it, then you're gonna have a miserable time in this one matchup. And I think putting it to 1, I think, is fair, because I think the deck is playable with 1 Liger Dancer still.
Bad reputation of this deck, or perception of this deck. I know Pac made a video where he's talking about how this deck is super skillful, and a lot of people are just like, oh yeah, you summon a towers and it's super skillful. But
it is a skillful deck. No, don't get me wrong, maneuvering this deck is skillful, and playing the deck yourself is fun. I just don't like the sort of like deck building restrictions it puts on all the other decks in the format when it exists. But it is a skillful deck. With by no means am I saying it's not a skillful deck. It is skillful. Because of course, in theory, yes, summon tower, win game, but how you get there and to sequence your lines and stuff like that, it's a complicated deck. It's not easy to play, and it's fun and rewarding. Like the deck itself is not my least favorite combo deck. Like the way it plays is actually interesting, but still, I think 1 Liger, once again, I don't think that kills the deck. I think with 1 Liger, maybe you can still do it, but also you have to worry about like, oh, what's maybe my alternative win condition if my Liger Dancer doesn't work and stuff like that. I think it actually, if anything, it probably makes the deck more skillful if Liger Dancer is at 1.
Most decks going first, if you just go uninterrupted, the combo is pretty easy where you just win on it. And the thing with Moonlight is the combos aren't easy, and playing through boards is super difficult. Like, I've watched Ryan play this deck a lot.
Also, they get more support at some point, right?
And it's just not a straightforward deck at all. It's very, very complicated. It's one of the hardest decks I've seen. I even put time into it and just eventually gave up on it, which, maybe it's just a testament to me not playing combo. But it is a very cool deck to exist. I don't think the existence of Liger is the problem, but 2 Ligers is a lot, and I'm fine removing 1 down, so you can't just summon 1 and summon 2 and just win the game through absolutely everything. You have to have diversify your board a bit, maybe IPSP, make the rest of the board.
The thing with 2 Ligers as well is that most outs that you could come up with just don't work against 2 Ligers, right? Because Liger like outs your outs.
Right.
They just destroy your board twice. How are you gonna summon a monster that outs 2 Ligers if they can board wipe you twice?
Deck, quote unquote, after this list. And this deck is pretty toxic, not because of the playstyle, but just because of the ability to look at hand or look at top of deck.
I'd be down for some cool tune pre-hits. I think the deck would still be good even if they did some pre-hits to it, honestly.
I'm playing a lot against this deck on Master Duel, like a very large amount of prep time in. And it's
I don't hate it that much, but I think a pre-hit is fine.
Kind of mid.
Especially Rosewood.
The deck is almost like the deck has the toxic traits to make it tier 1. Because if it didn't, I really would question if it would just be the best deck at all. Because its end board is just super susceptible to breakers. And even when we've talked about
this. People were saying like, oh, they could have just not put the look at hand on Rotary. I genuinely think this deck makes up for being mediocre in terms of end board by like gaining information about your opponent's hand and top deck, right? Like if they didn't have those let's call them toxic traits, if they didn't have those ways to gain information, the deck would just genuinely be bad. because it doesn't have enough interruption. Like this deck, if you didn't know your opponent's hand and top deck, you would just get overrun by every deck in the format. Like, unironically, the cool tune board, if they don't know what to negate or what to interrupt, like, you just run over it almost every time. And yeah, but I think they could hit it a little bit preemptively.
Because there are sometimes it's still just not enough.
Definitely ban Rose Whip. Yeah, I mean, that's a cold take.
That being said, I think that this is a deck people aren't going to like, and I don't think it's toxic enough to justify an early hit, at least for the engine. But one thing we can get rid of, at least because it is a floodgate that's easily accessible, is Rose Whip.
My goat knows.
The big thing with this deck is that, you know, it's weak to breakers. If you have a gas engine heavy hand, you should be able to push through boards, and this kind of invalidates it. Especially with Zaleen being a card. Being able to just negate the effect of the first spell and then you just have nothing. I'm perfectly happy betting this card, and then, you know, we can go from there with Cool Tune later on to see what happens. Those are all the in-engine stuff I want to talk about. The other two cards to talk about, which I'm not going to go super in-depth with, are just the Maul Charmies and Ash. I think that both of these cards should eventually make their way on the ban list. I don't have faith that either of them are. Ash might, but Fua and friends probably won't. I think overall, like I said, it's a longer discussion that needs to be had, but I think there's more balancing that needs to be done first to make these bans, you know, applicable. I think that if you just ban the Chummies and leave everything else the same, it's not necessarily going to be a good format. The Chummies are very good at making bad formats better, but they also have this habit of making good formats worse. So if we can actually get some of the other balance issues fixed up, I think it's a point where I would seriously talk about banning this card.
I think that's a good way to put it, because that's definitely true, right? Like, a bad format definitely gets better because Charmies exist, because a format is typically bad if decks are just like way too broken going first, and Charmies alleviate that problem a little bit. But they can definitely, if a deck is already fair, if a format is already good, then the Mole Charmies just aren't necessary and introduce a little bit of variance into the format that doesn't need to exist, right? Like, I think that's a good way to put it, right? And I think essentially that's what all the people that, I think the people that hate on the Mole Charmies are on the side of like, this game would have been good if not for the Mole Charmy, and then the Mole Charmy defenders are on the other side of the experience where they're like, okay, this game would have been awful if I didn't have a Mole Charmy, right? And I mean, both of those experiences are real. Both of those experiences happen, right? So I think that's a statement I can get behind with. I think Mole Charmies can make bad formats better, but they can also make good formats worse. The problem is Yu-Gi-Oh has a tendency, because of how good decks are and how good Yu-Gi-Oh like going first is in Yu-Gi-Oh, I think Yu-Gi-Oh has a bigger tendency towards bad formats these days if we don't have these fixes, right? Because they have struggled or have not been willing to address going first being so powerful. They've only given us band-aid fixes. It's very likely that if we didn't have the Mole Charmies, a lot of the formats would just be pretty bad, especially when you're going second, right? So that's that. I think Ash Blossom, honestly, Ash Blossom might be the opposite for me. I think in a good and healthy format where decks ceilings are balanced and everything, I think Ash Blossom is completely fine to exist, maybe even healthy. So maybe Ash Blossom is a card that makes already good formats better because it introduces some levels of skills when you're playing against fair decks like Draco Tail, you know, because you can hold Ash for a specific choke point. So in a good format, Ash is completely fine. Ash is completely healthy in a good format, but Ash makes good formats better, but definitely makes bad formats worse. Like in a format where the decks going first are already giga broken and play through hand traps like it's nothing, and your only way to win is Charmies, like Ash just makes those formats even more miserable, is where I stand on it. So Ash in the great design space of Yu-Gi-Oh is win more when you're thinking about it, right? Like when that's the case. Ash makes Draco Tail mirrors more skillful. This is not true. The Draco Tail mirror literally gets almost every ounce of skill sucked out of it if one player opens Ash and the other one doesn't, because they just keep looping Ash back to hand and negating everything. Like, have you ever played a Draco Tail mirror where one player had Ash and the other one didn't? Like that's miserable, because you just know you will never be able to properly play the game. They ash your trap on their turn, then they ash your starter on the next turn, and into infinity.
But until then, that needs to be down the road. And Ash is a call by, but again, a call by for going first. But it's a good enough hand trap going second where I don't immediately need to see this go.
I think literally we've watched Yu-Gi-Oh for like 12 hours this weekend already. I don't think we've seen a single good usage of Ash going second, and we've seen like a billion Charmies get ashed already. I don't think Ash is good enough going second to justify keeping it around. I don't believe it. I have yet to see a player going second using Ash in a good way to actually create a good game of Yu-Gi-Oh. The only times I see Ash going second do anything is if it literally hand traps your opponent to death. Like, Ash going second is only good when your opponent has one starter, you ash it and they pass, which is also not a good play pattern, by the way. That is something we literally talked about like 10 minutes ago with the Maliss cards, when it was like, oh, Maliss going second is just hand trap your opponent to death and that's how it wins. That's the only time that Ash is good going second, is if you friggin' like hand trap your opponent to death. That's when Ash is good. But that's also not good gameplay.
It's like it's the other hand trap that people talk about, and I'm just putting the semi-limited because I don't see this card as a particularly large issue. If you're playing hand trap wars, then it's definitely
Santoli is a droll defender. I knew
card.
this.
I don't hate this card going up more, but it's not a card either that screams at me needs to get hit. So, anyways, this is my thoughts on the ban list and the upcoming format. There's obviously all the other toxic cards that need to get hit.
I mean, I don't agree on everything, but most of it I agree with. I think, or the way I would phrase it is, I think we have very similar views on how to hit engine in the current format. I don't necessarily think we agree on non-engine, but that's like, I've noticed that during this format, I've kind of like developed into this non-engine hater in modern Yu-Gi-Oh, I suppose. Like, I just don't enjoy how non-engine interacts at the moment in modern Yu-Gi-Oh, like with all of the negation hand traps and lingering and stuff like that. I think that is one of the bigger issues with modern Yu-Gi-Oh that they need to fix. That like non-engine at the moment is absolutely necessary to not get completely blown out when you're going second. I just don't love how it's developed into this like, oh, I'm gonna negate all your starters again and hope you can't play, and my non-engine is just gonna be like, I'm gonna combo and set impulse and have Ash in hand and you're not playing the game, and so on and so forth. But yeah. All right. Well, but for the most part, I agree with all the hits on engine. I just think we need to talk about non-engine more when we talk about the ban list at the moment.